Hello listeners, we are your co-hosts Jeanine Bailey and Marie Quigley for the Empower World Coaching and Leadership Podcast. Empower World brings guests who are making a difference to the world to inspire coaches and leaders who lead with mind, heart and soul.
Hello and welcome to the Empower World Coaching and Leadership Podcast. Jeanine and I are actually in the same country today. She's flown in to the UK for a little bit of a holiday to see family and friends, but also to prepare for our up-and-coming ICF professional coach training happening in the UK in July in my hometown of Sheffield. Hi, Jeanine. Great to have you in the same country and in the same time zone.
It's great to be in the same time zone again. I have missed being here, and I'm absolutely delighted to be back and for us to be doing our very first in-person UK coach training program. I'm absolutely over the moon and delighted and energized as we speak about it right now. And it's wonderful to be here in the UK on a beautiful. We are in spring. Yes, a spring day. I get confused with the being on two sides of the world.
Yes,
it's gorgeous. So it's great to be here with you, Marie.
It is. And although we've had lots of UK people on our online program and who've been on our program in Qatar, this is the first time actually we're hosting it here. So it should be a wonderful experience for all of those people who want to join us in July. And today's podcast is the culmination of the series of podcasts we've been doing on the ICF 8 core competencies. And this one is about, it's marked number D, cultivating learning and growth. And it's number 8 in the core competencies list of facilitating the client growth. And the definition of that is that as coaches, we partner with the client to transform their learning, their awareness and insight into action, or sometimes non-action, I always say as well, because if a client is doing too much, perhaps they need to stop doing that too much. And it also promotes client autonomy in the coaching process. So as in all of our webinars, when we're unpacking these core competencies, we want to unpack what that actually means and how to put it into practice in our coaching sessions. And that's what we intend to do today.
Absolutely, Marie. And yes, that reference to action and that non-action, still that non-action can be related to who our client has decided they want to be. So it's supporting them to embrace those qualities of who they choose to be. And sometimes that can mean to be quiet, to be still, to be present. And so where we will be supporting our clients to identify those ways of being that allow them to embody those qualities. So this competency is, again, like all the other competencies, super important. They all combine, they all connect. And this competency really brings everything together. And it's not a competency that we save up for the end of the session, although a number of these sub-competencies within Competency 8, yes, they do relate to closing out the session. And there are also parts of this competency that runs throughout the coaching session that we have with our clients. And it's always supporting our clients to consciously be aware of the learnings that they are starting to create, the new wisdom that's coming in, the decisions that they're starting to realize they want to make in terms of who they want to be and what it is they want to embody going forward. Now, Marie and I, we both mentor new coaches as well as right through to the master certified coaches. And we notice with the new coaches, many of them perhaps don't give so much importance to this competency. And so it really is important to gather those learnings, to identify the wisdom and the way forward, and so much more.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Jeanine. And you said something important about who the client is being in the learning. And that's particularly important for those coaches who are moving towards PCC, and most definitely those who are thinking about their practice moving towards more masterful coaching, particularly those who are looking for their MCC certification. So that is a key in this facilitating the learning and growth. And what we often hear is coaches at all levels saying, okay, so what you're going to do with this? And it's not just about what you are going to do with this, but who you're going to be as you are taking that action or non-action.
Yes, it's so important to meet the competencies, is to really support your client to identify what are you learning about yourself. Not just the goal that they brought into the session, but also what are you learning about yourself that is going to support you to move forward. So it is the being. And of course, it's also about what the client has brought in, knowing that that's all connected to the whole self.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking, I've heard recently, actually, in some mentoring sessions, some coaches saying, oh, the ICF, the competencies are so restrictive. And I couldn't disagree more with that. For me, they're so freeing because, as you very wisely said, Jeanine, this facilitating the client's learning and growth is not about just bringing it at the end. We can move with the client at any point to discover what's happening now. What new awareness are you gaining? And how are you being in that new awareness? And particularly for uncovering clients' patterns of behavior, it's fascinating when a client gets an aha moment about how they believe about something. Maybe they've believed about it for years. And suddenly in the coaching session, as the coach, you've mirrored what they're believing. And they go, oh my goodness, I believe this? Actually, I want to believe something different. That's a massive opportunity for them to discover how did they do that shift? What's happened within their thinking or feeling or experiencing of themselves that has allowed them to create the shift? Because that's going to help them when they go out in the world and are faced with the same beliefs popping up again and again, because old habits are often hard to die or change unless we're aware of how we have done that. And that could be a change of breath. It could be a physical movement that the client's made, maybe a sitting up that's allowed them to see, my goodness, that's not what I believe at all. This is what I believe. And this is how I want to live now in this new belief, which is going to have a different impact on the outcomes and actions I take in my life.
Yes, and that's really important, Marie. Thank you for sharing. And by supporting our clients to create that real conscious awareness of what they're beginning to understand about themselves, what it is they want going forward, who they really are, once they're really consciously clear of these things and what it is they want and how that connects to potentially their goal, there's the success and fulfillment that they've created at the beginning of the session, if you've done that as a coach to support them to understand what that means for them, then it is supporting the client that we're working with to, together with that conscious awareness, because our thoughts can easily leave us. So with that conscious awareness that they are bringing back into the session, then we can support our clients to identify what are the commitments that they want to truly embody and identify for themselves. What is it that they commit to that creates that transformational change? And we really want to support our clients as much as possible to embody what they want to commit to and what they've learned. So they're programming their beautiful mind and body and emotions as to what it is that they want and what they will experience. So allowing our clients to experience it in the session, again, inspires our clients to make that commitment to themselves. And then we can ask them those beautiful questions of who will keep you accountable. And if they say, themselves, then that is brilliant, because they're taking 100% responsibility for themselves. And that's what we want to support our clients to do, to become independent, to be able to look after themselves, to be self-reliant, self-determined in relation to what they truly want.
Yeah. And a way to help them realize that they are in charge of this is to support them to reflect back on the time that you've spent together. Perhaps your session is 45 minutes or an hour long, but supporting the client to recognize, here's where you were when you came in. Where are you now? How's that thinking process, that feeling process, that experience process? How has that supported you to create a different outcome? And what is that like? And how would you like to celebrate yourself? And what do you appreciate about yourself? So all of those things, again, they support the client to recognize they have done the work. Of course, we've partnered with them in the thinking, because the skills of coaching allow us to help people to think outside their normal way of being and doing. But the client has done the work. And this is phenomenal, to think that in a very short time, such as 45 minutes, they have chosen to think and feel and therefore be different in their processing.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to watch it as a coach, but to really acknowledge it for yourself and think, gosh, I did that. So if I can do that about this thing that I thought was big at the beginning of the session, what is possible in my life about other things that maybe are small or big? You know, it's a really good learning opportunity to think that we are responsible for our life, and how we think about it and how we feel about it impacts our outcomes.
And I believe we've shared many times on this podcast and certainly in our training that when we take 100% responsibility, we take back our life. We're not beholden to other things that are outside of ourselves. Our client, when they take that back, their power back, they know that they're in charge, absolutely in charge of their life. And so as we support them to embody their learnings, to create that awareness and to identify their way forward, to identify what the future may look like as they take those commitments, we can ask those beautiful systemic questions of, what will this enable you to do in the future? What options and opportunities awaken for you? How does this support when you take those actions, when you really, again, live what you've committed to? How does that also support the people that you love? How does that impact your work life? How does that impact your future self, 10 years, 5 years down the track, your legacy, maybe 100 years' time, thousands of years' time? So asking those beautiful systemic questions, again, connects the client to their inspiration for being and choosing that way. I'm loving that bird that is behind you now.
Little magpie.
Really, bringing to life that this is life. This is a beautiful life that we can support our clients and ourselves as coaches to live. Mm-hmm. And so as we come to the session, as we start to close out the session, we've supported our clients to go on a magnificent journey. And they've potentially really stepped into their vulnerability and their courage, their true selves. So we really want to honor that as we close the session. And so asking questions and again, giving our clients the opportunity to lead. How do we want to close the session today? How would you like to celebrate all of this magnificent work that you've been doing today for yourself, in honor of yourself?
Yeah, that's so important, that closing off the session, that the client does it. Because remember, coaches, it's their work and it's their time. And so allowing them to take charge of the closing as well as the opening, again, supports that full responsibility. And look, this is not saying that your client's going to do everything they're going to commit to as they're moving towards the end of the session. Remember, coaching is not a one-off conversation. It's a process. This is why we always encourage coaches to do a program of coaching with their clients, because they'll leave your session and they'll continue with this awareness, especially if you are using all of their senses. It's going to be resonating within their body. So they're going to potentially move into action, or maybe they're going to find out some blockers, and we will test out some obstacles in the session. But maybe they will find some obstacles that have stopped them taking action. And who they're being then in that obstacle determines whether they're going to move over it or whether they're going to kind of get stuck with it. So it's a great opportunity as they move in their life and come back to the next session for them to update themselves. It's really updating themselves and you as their thinking partner, processing partner, to explore what happened in the not taking action and what needs to shift potentially for them to do more of that.
Yes, so, again, really important points you brought in, Marie. We're partnering with our client to identify those perhaps barriers, perhaps blockages, perhaps limiting beliefs, but also those empowering beliefs and those resources that will support the client to take action or not, as Marie has shared. Life can sometimes get in the way, or there may be that hidden belief that perhaps prevents our client from moving forward. So it's just another beautiful opportunity to support our clients to peel back the layers, to identify what's really going on underneath. So as we start to close out the session with our client, once we've perhaps explored those barriers and those resources that are required, and our client is committed and knows what they want to do, and they've perhaps tried it on in the session, they've embodied it, they've stepped into their imagination and identified what that will be like when they take that action. It's really for us as coaches to celebrate with them, to celebrate the work that they've done and to acknowledge who they are being, to be able to support that closing out of the session.
Love that, Jeanine. And then coaches, it can be really useful for you as facilitating your own growth in your coaching when you move away from your clients, is to spend a little bit of time doing some self-reflection on what that session was like, who you were being in the session, what growth has it provided for yourself, where are your areas of opportunity for exploring what could be even more useful for your client. So that reflective practice, if you bring it into your session time afterwards for yourself, of course, that can be really useful to help you grow. I was talking to some coaches yesterday, and one of them shared very honestly, it's sometimes she resists that because she's done a lot of work and she wants to move away. So you can't do that reflection practice straight after the session. Put some time in your diary to support yourself, to bring back your client experience and determine your own growth and learning for yourself, because it's a wonderful way to expand yourself and therefore provide even better coaching for your clients.
Yes, and that is, again, a wonderful way to support ourselves, as you've shared, Marie, and it really meets core competency too. Yeah. The requirement for us as coaches to take that time out to reflect, to develop, to support ourselves, to identify our own blind spots of coaching, who we are being and how we come into the coaching sessions is going to somehow, some way influence the outcomes for our clients. As much as possible, we want to remain, unbiased, neutral, to really support our client to identify their own ways of being and doing, etc. And yet there still could be a part of us that influences the questions that we ask. So hence the ICF really encourages us as coaches to become truly aware of who we are being, so that we are not dirtying the waters, so to speak, with our questions. So coaches, we trust that we've really covered off all of the sub-competencies of Competency 8 to support you with your practice, to be able to support yourself and, of course, most importantly, your client. So we'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to know how we are doing. And if you think that this is valuable, we'd love you to share it as well. We truly believe in what we do. We are very passionate about supporting this profession to create a better world.
And on that beautiful note, we shall say goodbye, adieu, and see you all very soon.
Thank you for joining.
Thanks for listening. You can find out more about us on our website, www.empower-world.com, and on our social media networks, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Be empowered.